Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I'm going to be doing a very quick question and answers on here, just to cover some of the points today, because I want to try and get on here every day at the moment. It's one of the things that I'm trying to do to build up a sort of large resource of free content on YouTube. So I'm trying to put together a lot of videos. So I'm trying to keep to a sort of daily questions and answers, so that I can cover, I can get on here for those of you who don't come in for one-to-one coaching or group coaching with me, and can answer your questions that you have relating to your OCD. So anything you want to ask, I'll do that. GAD, same concept. Generalized anxiety disorder is the same concept. It's just not as instant. Although OCD it's a journey, it takes time. When you actually become less scared of the things that you're scared of, when you're no longer scared of those things, they no longer bother you like they did before, then they release very quickly. Once you're not scared, it's almost instant. Like when I got under some fears, it just went like that at that point. And with GAD, with generalized anxiety disorder, it doesn't do it like that. Generalized anxiety disorder takes time for those sort of sensitized nerves, as Claire Weeks puts it, to sort of calm down, for that sort of lot of physical symptoms of anxiety that have been going on and persisting for a long time to come down. So that takes a while. That's not instant. But yes, it's the same concept. All the anxiety disorders run on the same principles, which are, you are scared of something, you are viewing something, something is an irrational, there are some irrational beliefs under there that are fueling it. And that's the same for PTSD, for GAD, for panic disorder, for OCD. But they do take a little bit of sort of investigating to get under them. And they don't release, they take a while to really believe the rational alternative. So GAD, people often get scared, they think they're stuck like that forever, but they're not stuck like that forever. What the problem is that they've been in such a situation of being stuck for so long that the physical symptoms have felt so sort of just like their whole body internally is sort of imprisoned by them. It's what it feels like. So they can't imagine not being scared. The same as with OCD. They've got so used to being scared, they can't imagine not being scared. So that's a large part of the problem with that. And that's the same with any of the anxiety disorders. There's certain parts of them that feel like you can't feel the quick fear that's underneath it, that's just under the surface, that gets it going like that. And because you can't feel that, you don't see that initial fear that sort of sparks it, the catalyst to the cycle. It's very easy to think it's doing it to you rather than you doing it to it. It's our beliefs that contribute to the anxiety cycle, but it takes a while to get under those. So we can often think we're stuck in some cycle that's outside of our control, like some disease doing it to us, but it isn't the case. Okay, let's have a look here. How to deal with depression related to OCD. The depression is there because you're anxious, you're disturbed by something, which is then leading to the depression, because you're saying something to yourself along the lines of, I can't stand this, this is terrible, if this carries on persisting, it will be awful, it will be the worst thing ever, I hate that, I can't stand that, and that's what's contributing to it. There are beliefs there. The depression is not just out of nowhere, it's there because of some beliefs that are initially starting the cycle. Same as with anxiety. And anxiety can also make you feel depressed. It can mimic depression. It's the master at that. So if you're scared of, say, suicide OCD, obviously feeling depressed can be a contributor, because you're scared that will mean that you commit suicide. So you're then concerned about being depressed, and anxiety can mimic that and make it feel very much like you are. ROCD, if you go on my YouTube channel, there's an in-detail look at ROCD on there, so you can check that out. How to overcome reading OCD, not getting the meaning. So what if you don't get the meaning? You miss out on something. It's not the end of the world. And it's about learning to accept that and not keep rereading compulsively back to try and get the feeling into your head, because it's just going to keep feeling like it's slipping out. How do I get over the feeling like I don't deserve anything? There is no laws of deservingness. No human deserves more or less than anyone. There is no deserving. So once you get under that breaks that down. I wish to keep everything with me that can be needed. Sounds like me at school, carrying way too many books, because I used to think, what if I forget a book that I need, a crucial book? So I used to carry a bloody heavy bag that completely fucked up my back because I was always carrying all the books for the whole month, which I didn't need. How do you overcome doubting you have OCD? Well, you've got to go unconditional self, other, and life acceptance gets under it regardless if it's OCD or not. So it doesn't really make a difference whether it is OCD or not. Makes no difference whatsoever. How can you tell the difference between relationship OCD, whether it's a relationship problem or the OCD? Don't try and work that out. You've got to go with the uncertainty of not knowing for now. The unconditional self-acceptance if I don't love him, or an unconditional other acceptance of if he doesn't love me, gets under that fully regardless. Do you ever experience headaches or just feeling faint during your time with anxiety? Headaches are a very common anxiety symptom. You're going to feel those. Everyone feels those in the journey. It's a very common part of the journey, and it's something that you've got to wear like an uncomfortable coat. I used to have these terrible headaches. Painkillers did nothing for. They just used to be so strong, and it's because of the anxiety. You get under the anxiety, it gets under the headaches too. Yes, anything like work OCD is anything like anything OCD. OCD can get into anything. Anything that you're scared of, it will get into. It's not specially reserved for certain things. It gets into absolutely anything you can imagine. What's the difference between having GAD and OCD and just OCD? Generalized anxiety disorder is a separate disorder. It feels like a separate level of physical anxiety that's underneath. Even when you can't pinpoint a reason why you're anxious, it still plays out. It's very easy for people to make a misdiagnosis and not understand it. From a medical point of view, people doing diagnosis, it's often people with just feeling generally anxious are diagnosed with GAD, but it's a separate thing like that. Feels like your nerves are sort of plugged into the electricity. Now, every OCD sufferer can say that and say that their nerves are plugged into the electricity and they feel that, but it's a kind of separate thing. If you look at it, it's very different. It's much stronger physical sensations. Hard to pin a reason why you're anxious. It's usually although there's a contributing fear often, it's usually anxious about being anxious that's persisting on in the background. Feels like a second loop almost of anxiety. Real event OCD is unconditional self acceptance, gets under real event because it's all to do with not being able to accept yourself, and guilt, chronic guilt, and so on. That's where it tends to attach and latch in there. For the first steps of unconditional self-acceptance, it's good to read the book by Albert Ellis, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything. That's a very good place to start. Do you still continue with the relationship when you've got ROCD, even if you're anxious all the time? Absolutely. You don't quit your relationship. Don't let OCD control your life. Carry on down the path that you're on through life, not letting OCD call the shots. yeah, for Unconditional Self-Acceptance, that first book, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, by the founder of CBT, and the second book, The Myth of Self-Esteem, by Albert Ellis, is very good for that. Gives a good understanding of it, especially chapter 4 in The Myth of Self-Esteem, Psychotherapy and the Value of a Human. Let me think, is there anything else that I want to cover today? Don't think so. What's the most effective psychological treatment for OCD? In relation to getting better from OCD, this page is obviously jam-packed with resources for how to get better from OCD and what's needed. So you'll find that all on here. I've just had our whole website being rebuilt, which is going to be packed full of content and explanations about everything. So you'll see a lot more things on there, as well as my YouTube channel that covers a lot of things in relation to OCD. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next Instagram Live. We'll be back up tomorrow, covering much more in detail question and answers. So anything that I've missed today, you can go on there and see that tomorrow. All right, guys, take it easy.